This kind of shit is fascinating to me because it's reality. You know what I mean? There are so many people though nowadays are far too brainwashed. You know, they can't think for themselves. They're far too brainwashed. But the reality is we are getting sicker and sicker and sicker as a nation. Okay? Diseases in children are skyrocketing. Diseases that were like virtually unheard of not that long ago are now, being seen in children. So what's wrong? Something's wrong, isn't it? Something is going on, and that doesn't take anybody with a doctorate degree. It's not rockets. You know what I mean? Something's wrong. But anyway, something is, this is what this woman was saying, that she studies this, and you know what I mean? Again, it's critical thinking, So the government's acknowledging, okay, that autism has skyrocketed in children, blah, blah, blah. 1975 is 1 in 5,000 births, now it's 1 in 68. So apparently many factions of government, they're just saying, oh, it's a genetic epidemic, So they're looking at the genetic aspects of autism, looking for genes that might be causing the autism. But think about it, it's actually, environmental triggers that cause the genes to mutate in the context of that environment. The gene isn't working properly, it's being disrupted. Okay? So something bad is going on, clearly. So all these drugs, undeniably, all these drugs people are taking, all these vaccines, all this crap are being injected into the body, and, they're interfering with life in the sense that, they're disrupting some enzyme somewhere that's, this is what they're saying, okay? Again, something's going on. We're getting sicker and sicker, okay? We're getting sicker and sicker. When I was growing up, like I said, when I was growing up, 23 doses of 7 vaccines was what kids were required. Remember, these are all, now it's all mandated, all these vaccines, and to even go to school, and it's like, today it's 69 doses of 16 vaccines, starting on day of birth, so at 12 hours old to age 14, and then all the 49 doses before the age of 6. So while these kids are developing, they're being shoved with all of this stuff, okay? And they all contain like mercury and aluminum and all this crap, and it's bypassing it's going straight into your bloodstream. I mean, yeah, something's wrong, people. And this is what this woman is saying, it's all these are obviously theories, but it's like all of these drugs are disrupting something in the system, okay? Fucking with the immune system, interfering with life in the sense that they're disrupting some enzyme somewhere that's probably very critical to a whole bunch of different functions. So this whole thing with, is interfering with life. And she says, she's given up on government funding because the government's too connected with all the industries causing the problem. The drug industry, the vaccine industry, the food industry. And she's wondering what it's going to be like in 20 or 30 years, Oh, and this is really interesting. Again, you can't deny any of this. This is all reality, okay? Reality 103, okay? Okay, there are 2 legal structures that enable the vaccine program we have today, okay, enable it to thrive. The one is states are permitted to mandate vaccines for people, and in particular children. They're permitted to enforce. You have to get vaccinated. You can't go to public school, okay? And then number two, the 1986 Act Congress passed relieves manufacturers and medical professionals of almost all liability in the event of vaccine injury. How convenient, huh? Shoving children full of all this crap that contains aluminum and mercury and all this stuff and whatnot, and then, you know, during their extreme developmental years, it's undeniable we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker as a nation. Children are getting diseases that they never ever got when I was even growing up, okay? It was unheard of. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the 1986 Act relieves manufacturers, medical professionals of almost all liability. So they can do whatever they want. Where's the justification? Why? How come when I was growing up, we only had to have 14 doses of 7 vaccines, and now kids nowadays have to have 69 doses of... Why? They have to have 69 doses of 16 vaccines nowadays, starting on the day of birth, okay? And 49 of those doses are before the age of 6. But when I was growing up, it was 23 doses of 7 vaccines. Why? Why the leap? Huh? Tell you, I'm glad I'm not having kids. 1 in fucking 68 children. That's not even counting all the other, you know, diseases that are on the rise in children. 1 in 68 will have autism. 1 in 68 births. That's a huge number, people. 1 in every 68 children born now has autism. Then, you know, they say we have to, as citizens, strengthen the rights of parents, particularly around vaccine issues. It's unbelievable. Again, even if, you know, pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine, whatever, we have a right to not put into our body. You know, it's still a medical procedure. It's still not proven 100% safe, so people should have a right to refuse, you know. And like this woman was saying, that's just essential, basic freedom over bodily integrity. It's just basic informed consent. And, you know, vaccines have been sold so strongly, and they're safe and effective. We get Jimmy Kimmel getting mad at anybody's anti-vaccine. I mean... So, you know, they've been sold very strongly as safe and effective for everybody. But, you know, the evidence doesn't suggest that. And the law certainly doesn't support that. Because if they're so safe, why do they need blanket, you know, they're not liable? If they're so 100% safe, would they have really... So this is called critical thinking, people. If they are so safe, if vaccines are so safe, why would they have needed that 1986 Act that was passed, right? Think about it. Why would they even need it? Why would they even need it? The 1986 Act Congress passed relieves manufacturers and medical professionals of almost all liability in the event of vaccine injury, okay? But if they're so safe, why would they ever need that? So, you know, like the woman saying, the new evidence doesn't suggest that, you know, vaccines have been sold very strongly, safe and effective, blah, 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 blah. They're just, oh my God, so safe. But evidence doesn't suggest that, and the law doesn't support it. And legally, vaccines are considered unavoidably unsafe, like all prescription drugs, because they have real risks. Vaccines have real risks, okay? But people, you know, people are brainwashed. People nowadays are so unbelievably, you know, you gotta follow the herd, you know. And we've been sold on the idea that vaccines are safe and effective. So anybody who criticizes the safety or questions the effectiveness or who questions the policies is easily labeled anti-vaccine, you know. And, you know, federal government and doctors and whatnot will try to tell you the risks are infinitesimal, like 1 in a million. You might get a little swelling at the site. You know, but if you follow the money, they want blanket liability protection, okay? So they're so safe and effective, yet we need a law to make sure that they're not liable for any injuries that may result as because of vaccine, you know, side effects, you know, vaccine injury. So what they're saying in the movie, you know, the documentary, there's a contradiction here. On one hand, we got the vaccines being sold as safe and effective. Everybody should get a vaccine. All these vaccines, one size fits all. They're not causing any problems. Blah 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 blah. But on the other hand, we don't want to be ever held liable for anything that might happen to you, your child, or whatnot because of vaccines that you give and take, etc., etc., etc. And I'm sorry, but the vaccine industry is undeniably a huge, like it's a $30 billion industry. Anyway, the person, you know, saying like, you know, we're sold that the vaccines are so safe, blah, 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 and shoving vaccine after vaccine into the children. What is that? How come when I was growing up, we only needed, like I said, these are undeniable statistics, 23 doses of, you know, because I keep forgetting this that I'm saying, but I'm trying to drill it home here. 23 doses of 7 vaccines. The kids nowadays get 69 doses of 16 vaccines starting on the day of birth at 12 hours of age to the age of 14, and 49 of those doses before the age of 6. Their whole developmental years, kids are given all these tons and tons and tons of vaccines that contain all kinds of, you know, unless you have your head under a rock or something, you know, aluminum and mercury and all that crap. Why does it even have to be in the vaccines? And it's not safe, okay? And it's going in directly into your bloodstream, and, you know, it's like... And again, a lot of what this movie brings up is that you don't know what's going on over... You can't deny the rise in all this crap, okay? That's the thing. It's... The rates of disease, I mean, we're getting sicker and sicker as a nation, okay? So then she's saying, you know, the fact that, you know, we get the blatant contradiction, it's so safe, but we need blanket liability across the board, blah, blah, blah. So that belies that there's something, you know, it's saying there's not something not quite right with this whole issue, and it needs to be examined. And nowadays, you know, there's so many vaccines, it's a $30 billion a year industry. Oh, and by the way, there used to be 30 or 40 vaccine manufacturers. We now have only 4. Just 4. And they serve the United States market and most of the global market. So it's an, what do they call it, an oligarchy? I don't know what that is. But anyway, used to be 30 to 40 vaccine manufacturers. Now there's only 4. You know, they have the monopoly on it. It's Pfizer, Merck, Sanofi, something rather, and GlaxoSmithKline, whatever. And vaccines, apparently, you know, the whole market is extremely profitable. More profitable, the margins higher than other areas of pharma. And what they say, we've swapped political and religious tyranny for medical tyranny. And then it goes on, this little girl, Mary Jack in New York. Undeniable adverse reactions to a vaccine she got. Her doctor's like, you cannot get any more vaccines, okay? Most states in this country nowadays are saying people don't have a choice when it comes to vaccines, which is a medical procedure. And the right to refuse was apparently overridden by a 1905 case, Jacobson versus Massachusetts, and the courts upheld that under a police power, government can force you to vaccinate. Even if one child has adverse reactions to vaccinations, that's not grounds for you. Even if you think there might be a genetic predisposition, blah blah, it's not grounds for you to refuse for you to refuse to vaccinate your child. This girl, Mary Jack, her doctor said, you cannot get vaccines. The city of New York said, sorry, you have to take the shots. She had severe adverse reaction to vaccine and is told she has to get more. I bet you anything her mom is just homeschooling her. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I can't even imagine that pro-vaccine people would say that this little girl that nearly dies from getting a vaccine has to still get more vaccines. And then they're pointing out a very good thing again. It's called rational thinking. We're always told that it's vitally important that all healthy children receive all the vaccines necessary, because there are some children who can't receive vaccines. Okay? This girl, Mary Jack, had a severe adverse reaction. Okay? It was diagnosed, documented, everything. And yet she has to fight the government to not have to be vaccinated more. And if she's not one of the children who can't receive vaccinations, then who are those children? See, it doesn't make sense, does it? It's dumb. And the thing is, what happened to this little girl is huge, you know what I mean? And she's being told she has to still take the vaccines. It went to court. And the court upheld that 1905 thing and said this little girl that blew my mind. This is what happened to her. She received the DPT vaccination. This is what her mom was saying happened to her. She was completely intoxicated. She had rashes around her mouth, around her eyes, up her back. She wasn't able to eat, not gaining weight, not growing. And the doctor, I guess, recommended an antibiotic, and within 20 seconds, Mary went into anaphylactic shock, had projectile vomiting, diarrhea, eyes rolled behind her head, and she lost her color, all because of ingredients in the vaccine. Okay. And then she goes to court, and the court in New York actually upheld that 1905 ruling. This little girl clearly suffered all these adverse reactions to the vaccine. Her doctor said, you cannot get any more vaccines. This little girl, and the court said she has to. That's sick. That's medical tyranny. It's sick. That's just sick, And like the woman who does the documenting and interviews people, like, you're told there are children who can't get vaccines, so who are those children if Mary doesn't fall in that category? Mary's doctor said you can't get vaccines. The city of New York said, sorry, you have to take the shots. That's just sick. And just as sick, if not sicker, of what we find out about GMOs. There are people who have done studies about GMOs, and again, these are statistics that can't be denied. All you have to do is look into it. Of how all these, every health issue, all these diseases you can think of, skyrocketed the moment they started doing the GMOs. Every disease. And yet it's all swept under the rug. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I feel like even somebody who's completely 100% pro-vaccine would not say that this little girl who nearly dies and has all this serious adverse reaction to vaccine has to still get more vaccines. I mean, that's just horrible. It's big business. You eat all the packaged foods that get you sick, and then you go to the pharmaceutical company because they're more than willing, and the doctor, to give you the drugs to make you feel better. And then they say, and then all that money, the government puts so much money into the food, into the whatever, and then all that money goes back to the government that they give to the food, and it's like a triangle. It's just, but you can step outside of it. You can step outside of it by, I'm glad I stayed up all night watching this. I learned so much. It's not quackery. They back it up by statistics. They've done studies with the GMOs and whatnot, and every disease has gone up, like skyrocketed ever since GMOs were introduced.